Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be stripping off the paint on this old coffee table, staining it and refinishing it. So we'll take off the front panel of the drawer, remove all the screws and the hardware. So we remove the legs from the bottom just by unscrewing them. So I just took a 2x6, drilled a hole in, and we're just going to loosely thread in the legs here so that we have a stable surface for when we're stripping and working on the legs. All right, so here's all the equipment we're going to use. We're going to try this Klean Strip Stripper, and then we'll follow that up with an after wash to remove the stripper. Got protective gloves, some brushes, scrapers, safety glasses, and a metal pan to put the stripper in. So we've had this sitting for a while, maybe about an hour or so, and we're gonna just try to test scrape and see if some of the paint comes off. Oh, yes, it's starting. That's good. Okay, all right.
I might get the bigger scraper out.
Yeah, I think we should. So here's the surface after one coat of the stripper. We're gonna do another coat of the stripper on the sides. It didn't really come off, so we'll have to do a second coat there. All right, here's a second coat of the stripper. This time we're focusing a lot on the sides here where it didn't come off. We just didn't put as thick a coat on the first time. All right, now we're removing the second coat of the stripper. All right, now we're going to use a little bit of the after wash for the paint stripper. This is just to help clean off some of the residue from the paint stripper. Okay, so I forgot to film this earlier, but for removing the paint from this, we drilled some holes in this 2x6 that are bigger than the bolt opening here at the bottom, so that we could just sit this in here and it would spin. But as you can see, if you press down too hard, it'll start burning the wood. You could start a fire. So got a nylon washer or disc and put that in. That helps it spin as long as you don't press down too hard from the top here with the drill that we had just used a bolt like this and then a socket head to match that, and we put that in here and we used the drill on low to spin this on top of the nylon disc. And if you press too hard, that nylon disc will melt, but basically this allowed us to take off the paint on here really easily. So after the pre-stain, we're sanding with a 120 grit very lightly, and then we're going to come in with a 220 before we stain. Now we're following up with a 220 grit lightly and with the grain. Now we're applying the stain, just going with the grain here, and we're gonna work this in and just spread it around evenly, and then we'll wipe it off any excess in a few minutes. Here's midway through the staining. We've smoothed out the top. You can see the grains coming through. It's actually looking really nice so far. We're still gonna blend this in to get rid of that blotchiness. Okay, this is the first coat of the stain, just to show you. Looks pretty good. Okay, so now we've run over this with a 120 grit sandpaper lightly with the grain, tack-clothed it, and then a 220 grit also with the grain everywhere here on the sides too. So now we've wiped that down with the tack cloth again, and we're gonna stain. Here's midway through the first stain. This is how it looks while it's still wet. Okay, so now for the legs, we're just gonna hit these with 150 sandpaper, rotate it around, up and down, kind of get this out, and then a 220 sponge around to smooth them out to get them ready for the pre-stain. All right, we're gonna put the pre-stain on the legs now. We've sanded them with 120 and then 220 grit. And we're putting it back on the 2x6. We've got a nylon disc or washer underneath there, and that's gonna give us some spacing so we can get the stain and pre-stain right up to the edge. And we just hand threaded in screws on the top here so that we can spin this by hand as we run the brush around to do the pre-stain and the stain. So, as you can see, there's no science to this. It's just a little bit of art and finesse. Okay, there with the pre-stain on, we're gonna let this sit for about a half hour or so and then come back and stain. I'm absolutely amazed here at how all of these finger joints are so well hidden by the pre-stain plus the stain. When you looked at this after it was sanded, you could really see all the finger joints very, very prominently. And now it's like they're all gone. All right, now we're using the Minwax Polycrylic. We have a clear satin here for our top coat, and we're just applying the first thin coat, spinning this around these three legs. The first coat's already on it, and the drawer, same thing, already on it. We're gonna let that dry for several hours. So we're just gonna lay this on in a nice thin coat for that first coat and overlap and work our way across, trying to work quickly so that we can get even coverage. All right, here's about after 15 minutes of this first coat drying. You can see some of the brush marks we couldn't avoid, but it's basically soaking in and tacking up now. So we're gonna finish some of this underside and then just let this sit. All right, now we're lightly scuffing with a 220 grit sanding pad after the first coat of the polycrylic before we apply the second. And here you can see the scuffing across the surface. That's what we're gonna go for, and we're gonna wipe off all that dust before we put the second coat on. Okay, so here's after the second coat has dried. We're gonna light sand and apply a third coat. This is coming along very nicely. And this is the second coat on the legs and on the drawer. Okay, here it is after the third coat. Nice even coverage. And the third coat on one of the legs, as you can see here. This looks really good. And the surface of the drawer pull. And here it is finished with the drawer reassembled and the hardware put on. We left it black on the interior. I'll do a quick walk around here. We'll attach the legs. Here it is with the legs attached. Show you there how well that blends in. Here's the side-by-side before and after. And here it is in a room to show you under natural light. It Looks really great. Overall, very happy with the way this came out. Thanks for watching. So this is what happens when you ask ChatGPT to draw you an image of a four-legged table.
Yeah, and it like doesn't quite grasp, and it throws something together not quite right, so you can tell something's wrong. It's like this. It's like, you know that all the legs are right and the board is right, but you're like, that's not how.
It is a four-legged table.
It looks like a
gosh.
candlestick holder.
It kind of does.